Becoming a father is life-changing. It puts many things into perspective. Everyday routines become irrelevant once you hold your very own baby for the first time. Sure, the constant changing of diapers and the crying every night are a tad annoying, but seeing little Emma smile as we play brightens my entire day. I feel like I owe you, the fathers reading this, an apology. You will despise me after reading this story, and I don't blame you for that. But whatever you do not come looking for me, as by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Ever since little Emma was a baby, she loved stuffed animals. When she was born, we introduced her to Mr. Snuffles, a cute little bunny. Uncle Tommy forgot to take off the price tag, revealing it was probably the cheapest toy he could find in some shady gas station on the way to the hospital. Reflecting on that moment, I'm honestly even surprised he even showed up. I watched Emma sleep, cuddle, and play with Mr. Snuffles for the next 3 years. And after those years, well, little Snuffles just disappeared. My wife and I spent hours looking and spent even longer trying to stop our baby girl from crying. Emma slept with us that night, and honestly, it made me wish she lost Mr. Snuffles every day. All the stuffed animals we got Emma in the next couple of months met the same fate. They all seemed to disappear at night. It's almost like they just got up and left or something. At some point we even thought Emma was messing with us, hiding the stuffed animals so we would buy her even more. It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. Emma is a bright kid. This entire plushie story went on for 2 straight months, but after we decided to stop buying her plushies, things took a terrifying turn. It started small, with Emma refusing to talk. Sure, she can be a stubborn kid, but it seemed different somehow. It felt like Emma locked herself up inside her own bubble. She stopped being her joyful little self and instead spent hours just laying in bed, facing the wall so she wouldn't have to look at us. This is strange behavior, but it's Emma refusing to eat that really got us concerned. Every meal became a fight with Emma scratching, screaming, and crying. I never told anyone, but she bit me once. I was trying to make her a sandwich for the 5th time, and while grabbing the peanut butter, she bit my arm. Not a minor bite either. Want to hear something weird? When I returned to the kitchen after patching myself up, she actually smiled for the first time in days, and for a couple of hours everything returned to normal. Sophie came up with the idea to place a baby monitor in Emma's room. I wasn't fond of the suggestion, but at this point, Emma hadn't eaten in 2 days. Over the past couple of weeks, Sophie had grown this habit of checking up on little Emma every hour. It made me realize how much pressure this put on the both of us. The baby monitor was our final attempt at fixing our daughter, before getting professional help. So I drove over to the closest store and found a cheap baby monitor with an integrated camera. The monitor was sound and motion activated, recording for 2 minutes after movement got detected. I installed the camera in Emma's room and used an old memory card I still had from a photography course I followed once. I still remember how I felt when reviewing the footage for the first time. For some reason, Sophie and I truly hoped that this footage would tell us what was wrong with little Emma. The first clip started with the crackling sounds of the baby monitor's microphone, mixed with a low-pitched giggle. The camera's night vision needed a minute to adjust, and it took a couple of seconds before we could distinguish all the different shapes in the room. Little Emma was sleeping and everything looked quite normal at first. If I hadn't bought a baby monitor with an integrated microphone, Sophie and I would never even have noticed the low-pitched giggles. It sounded distorted and the pitch seemed to be all over the place. It wasn't until Emma opened her eyes and started giggling along that we noticed how good the audio quality actually was. Something was in Emma's room. Sophie and I were shocked, and it took us a while before we decided to watch the other 2 recordings. The second one started with Emma standing right in front of the monitor, blocking its view. This clip didn't last for 2 minutes, instead, it lasted for an hour. The minor movement Emma made was apparently enough to keep the recording going. She seemed to be wiggling from left to right very slowly. It was me opening our bedroom door to take a leak that alerted little Emma and made her jolt back into bed. The last recording showed Emma sleeping. Her heavy breathing barely picked up by the baby monitor. The things we saw in the next couple of minutes shocked us to our core. 2 long, shadow-like arms reached out from under the bed, and before we had the time to set our minds straight, both hands grabbed and pulled Emma's legs. She landed on the ground with a loud smack, and within 3 seconds, she completely disappeared beneath the bed, gone from the camera's view. The last 30 seconds of the footage consist of Emma crying softly and a second voice trying to comfort her by singing some lullaby in a distorted, crackling voice. I felt defeated. There was no way on earth this was happening. Monsters or ghosts don't exist. They're all made-up stories to frighten children into behaving. However, the bruises on Emma's ankles and knees made me reconsider. Seeking professional help was no longer an option. They would see Emma's bruised ankles and they would take her away from me. I failed as a father. I should have sought help, but I was so scared to lose my baby girl. So scared that I decided to try and fix things myself. Things got out of hand when we confronted Emma with what we saw the first night. She started crying and screaming. As I tried holding her into my arms to calm her down, she bit me again. It wasn't just a bite out of anger though. She actually tried ripping the flesh from my arm, moaning with pleasure. She was trying to eat. After biting me at least 2 more times, she looked me in the eyes, grinned, and threw up before fainting. Her puke consisted of blood, tiny strings of wool, and other pieces of cloth. Had she been eating all her stuffed animals? I was so disturbed I didn't even realize how much the bite marks on my arms were bleeding. Sophie and I decided to turn on the live feed on the baby monitor and place it in our bedroom. Sophie and Emma would sleep together in our room and I would spend the night in Emma's room, following along with the live feed. The last thing I remember is trying to stay awake while the soft crackled humming of a woman singing a lullaby filled Emma's room. I hadn't slept in 2 days and for the first time in months, I felt all the stress flow away from my body. The humming had turned into whispering and I couldn't make out any of the words, but that didn't matter. I woke up 5 hours later at 2 a.m. The sudden pain in my arm woke me up, and to be honest, all of Emma's bite marks are bleeding again. My fingers were covered in blood and it took me a minute to realize I had moved to the back wall of Emma's room. Something was written on the wall in blood. My blood. Dodo Piti Popo. Piti Popo Baafle Dodo. If I told you I didn't kill my wife, would you believe me? Something had ripped the flesh from her neck. Bite marks all over her body revealed that something had been eating her. The local news claims that a mentally ill man forced his 3-year-old daughter to practice cannibalism on her dead mother. I won't waste any more time on this message. I have been tracking Emma for days now. The stench is getting harder to ignore. I am coming, little Emma.